Now we have seen the different natural phenomena of sunlight, right from the rainbow, formation of rainbow, the scattering of light, and one of the features of the scattering of light, one of the applications of the scattering of light is Tyndall effect. So Tyndall effect is nothing but the phenomenon of scattering of light by colloidal particles such as water, dust particles in the atmosphere. See here, in this case, whenever the light passes through the colloidal particles, the radiations are absorbed and are scattered by the colloidal particles. Means generally it is composed of the mist. Mist consists of the watery content and the dust particles. Such particles will scatter the light. So as an example, you can see such phenomenon in case of a closed room in which a small hole is made. When a sunlight is allowed to pass through this, then the radiations from the sunlight, the radiations of the sunlight are absorbed by the particles and are scattered, and they scatter the light. So here it is consisting of the particles as well as the light. Since the light is scattered, then particles becomes clearly visible. This is a practical phenomena that you can see in a closed room where the light is allowed to through a fine hole. In that case, the particles are visible because of this Tyndall effect. That means the scattering of light takes place due to the colloidal particles. So this phenomenon is a Tyndall effect. The same phenomenon you can observe in dense forests also. So when the forests are too thick, very thick, then whenever the light enters into the fine gaps of that, the mist particles, so the tiny water drops in the mist scatter the light. So that means here what happens, whenever the light is absorbed by the water droplets over here will be scattered. That's the reason a fine canopy can be observed in a dense forest. That is also due to the Tyndall effect. So this is also one of the features of the scattering of light. Now another phenomena, the natural phenomena that occur due to the sunlight is atmospheric refraction. That means whenever the light passes through the Earth's atmosphere, it undergoes a refraction. As we know that refraction is due to the bending of light when it passes from one type of medium to the other type of media, that is rarer medium to denser medium or vice versa. So here whenever the light comes from the upper regions and enters into the atmosphere, the refractive index of the atmosphere changes. That's the reason obviously the path will get deviated. Hence you cannot see the real position of the star. That means, so as you are moving, as the conditions are changing, refractive index is changing, physical conditions are changing, due to which you cannot see the star every time with the same brightness and same intensity. Instead it will be flickering as the conditions are changing. Such type of refraction is due to the atmosphere and we call it as a atmospheric refraction. Here in this case an example we can see that whenever there is a flame, so near the flame, if at all you are observing, here is the flame, when you are observing any object over here through this flame, you cannot see this object as stable. In fact, you can see this object as somewhat a wavery, that means in the shaky manner. Because of the reason, when you observe the air particles near the flame, these are hot enough so that less refractive index, whereas the refractive index above this is more. Because of the variation in these refractive indices, here there will be a deviation in the path. That means the light ray will be deviated, and since this flame is not unique every time, it is changing its refractive nature, this object will not be seen as an ideal one. In fact, it will be looking as a wavery thing. That's the reason wavering or flickering of objects when seen through the stream of hot air above the fire are because of the atmospheric refraction. That means this atmosphere will not have the same refractive index all the time, that vary depending upon the particles present, that vary depending upon the conditions prevailing at that particular instant of time. So such type of refractions, because of the changes in atmosphere, because of the change in the density of the atmospheric layers that occur, that is called as atmospheric refraction. And one more example you can think of, twinkling of stars. Twinkling of star is also the same thing. When you are observing a star, so you can just look into the figures provided over here. So when you look at the star, if at all the atmosphere conditions are not changing, and right from the star to the earth, if you have the same atmospheric conditions, then always the star seems to be at the same intensity and at the same brightness, same luminosity, everything. But when this atmosphere is changing, the intensity is changing, because the apparent position of the star will not be same, because it undergoes a bending through the atmospheric layers. Then the position is going to change. Because of the change in position, the brightness of the star will not be unique every time. That is the reason it gives a twinkling effect. So because every time the position, the apparent change in position occur, which gives rise to the different intensities. And similarly in case of sunrise and sunset also, before the sunrise, so 2 minutes before the sunrise, 2 minutes after the sunset, you are able to see the sun, because of the reason over the horizon the refraction takes place. Because of this refraction, you can see the sun before sunrise as well as after the sunset also. That is what advanced sunrise and delayed sunset. This is possible because of the atmospheric refraction. These are the some of the examples of the natural phenomena that occur in the atmosphere, that occur in our surroundings. So here you can see the various examples, right from rainbow, scattering of light, why sky appears blue and why sun appears red during the sunrise and sunset, and what is Tyndall effect, and atmospheric refraction gives rise to what. Especially the best example is twinkling of star. So the questions can be asked like this: what is the reason for twinkling of star? Means you can just write atmospheric refraction is the reason for twinkling of stars. And why the objects are seen shivering or wavering when you are observing through the flame, means because of atmospheric refraction. Because as you are looking at an object through the different refractive indices atmosphere, that means atmosphere having different refractive index, then definitely it will not have the unique identity. It will be somewhat differing in its nature, which appears to be wavering. So these are some of the examples of natural phenomena of light.